What's up, guys? Isaac here. Today I got another story for you guys. Today's story is something that might be relatable for some of you guys. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Comment if it's relatable at all. But today's story is about two best friends named Gerald and Jimmy. Gerald and Jimmy were good kids. They had good grades. They were raised right. But Jimmy got involved with this friend who introduced him to the devil's lettuce. And Jimmy found that he kind of enjoyed this. And so he thought he wanted his best friend Gerald to try it with him. Now, this story takes place a couple years ago when jewels were in fashion. So Jimmy's friend could get Jimmy and Gerald this jewel pod that was filled with THC, like it's liquid. And after some convincing, Jimmy finally got Gerald to agree to do this with him. So finally, they get down, they get down to their house, whatever. Get down to a comfortable spot, and they do it. They start hitting this THC pod, and after a couple hits, they're, pretty zoinked. And some time goes by, they're watching TV, their time goes by, their buddy called. They forgot that all the boys agreed to watch a football game together, but not only was this just a football game with the boys, it was with a group of boys that don't really do this stuff. And also, their parents are probably the most extreme against this kind of stuff. So, naturally, Jimmy and Gerald start to freak out a little bit. They don't really know what to do. They start drinking water. They're like, you know what? Let's just go and act sober. And so, that's exactly what they did. They got into the car and drove on the highway at a total of like 20 miles an hour. And slowly but surely, they made it to their friend's house. And so, when they got there, they pulled up into the driveway and just sat in the car for about 5 to 10 minutes, and they just looked at each other and started dying. And after they stopped laughing, Jimmy kept saying, like, we need to go home, this is a terrible idea, we're gonna get in so much trouble. And Gerald's like, no dude, we're fine, like, stop worrying this much. So Gerald finally listened to Jimmy, and they got out of the car and walked in. Now right when they walked in, I'm pretty sure everybody knew something was wrong, but luckily it was just the friends downstairs at the moment, and the parents were upstairs. After Jimmy and Gerald started laughing at stupid things for about a solid half hour, one of the other friends in the group texted them and was like, what is wrong with you guys? Like, everybody knows something's up. Like, just tell me what's going on. I won't tell anybody else. So, they texted him back and said, dude, we smoked. Like, we're high. Like, don't tell anybody. And the one friend was pretty cool about it. He didn't tell anybody, and nobody else really suspected a thing because at this point it was starting to wear off. And so the rest of the night was pretty normal. The friends finished watching the game, and the Packers won. Now, that doesn't make sense right now, but pay attention to that because later in the story, that's a key element. And so once the game finished up, all the friends said bye. Jimmy and Gerald left. No one really knew what was going on with them. They just knew it was something weird, and the one friend didn't tell anybody, so it was still cool. So Jimmy and Gerald obviously drove there together, so they had to drive home together. On the way back, Jimmy's like, dude, let's do that again. And Gerald's like, okay, whatever, it's not like we really have anything else to do tonight, so might as well. So both of them took a couple more hits of this pod. It took a couple minutes, they were just sitting in the car, they were just sitting in a parking lot, and then a couple minutes go by, they're really starting to feel it again, and Gerald gets a phone call from his mom asking if he can stop by his aunt's house to grab something for her. And so naturally, they just start freaking out again. They're like, no, I thought we didn't have to do anything else tonight, this is terrible. Like, my aunt's definitely going to know, she used to do this stuff in high school. And Jimmy's like, Gerald, calm down. We just did this with our friends who know us the best, and they hardly knew what was going on. So, Gerald believed him. They, aired out the car and then started driving to Gerald's aunt's house. So, finally, they pulled up to the driveway, and they did the same thing they did at the friend's driveway, where they just looked at each other and started laughing. Gerald got some sense talked into him by Jimmy, and finally worked up the courage to walk into the house. Now, the whole interaction here was something straight out of a comedy. First off, when Gerald approached the house, he completely forgot that doorbells were a thing, so he was knocking on the door, and his aunt said come in, but he didn't hear her, so he just kept knocking, and so she came and opened the door, and right away, she could just tell that Gerald's eyes were just bloodshot red. She knew something was going on because, like I previously stated, in high school she kind of got involved with drugs a little bit. But, she was a cool aunt, so she didn't really say anything and kind of just proceeded with what she was going to do. But Gerald's mindset was on the complete opposite side of the spectrum. He thought she definitely knew, and he was just freaking out inside. So every time he thought he could do something to try to make himself seem sober, he would, but all that did is make him seem more high. Like, one of the first things he did was try to start a conversation, but all he could think about was the football game he just watched, so he brought up football, and luckily for Gerald, his aunt watched football, and so they were chatting about the game, and, they were talking about some cool plays that happened, and Gerald's, closing remarks of the conversation were, yeah, but I really wish the Packers would have won. And if you remember earlier in the story, the Packers did win. So the aunt, at this point, it was so obvious that he was just baked out of his mind, and she was like, the Packers did win. What are you talking about? And so Gerald, he froze. He freaked out. She's like, what, are you high or something? And Gerald, hearing this out of his aunt's mouth, just freaked out. Everything was going through his head like, oh my God, she's going to tell my mom. This is terrible. I'm going to jail. I'm going to be nothing in life. He was freaking out. So he just stood there, didn't say a word, forgot how to talk, and just made this extremely odd, screech. I, can't even describe what it sounds like, and just ran out the door to Jimmy. And as soon as Gerald got in the car, he was freaking out. He's like, my aunt knows I'm high. We need to leave. We need to go home. And he completely forgot to grab what his mom wanted him to go there for, to begin with. So anyway, they went to Gerald's house, and Jimmy dropped him off. And now Gerald's adrenaline was pumping quite a bit, so at this point he wasn't really feeling high. So when he walked into his mom, she's like, well, where's the thing you asked me to grab? And he's like, I'm really sorry, I just forgot. And he went straight to his room because he was freaking out. And the first thing he does is calls Jimmy. Jimmy's still in the car, and he's feeling good, he has no reason to really not be. And Gerald's like, we need to stop doing this. This is terrible. I'm going to be in so much trouble. And Jimmy's like, listen, Gerald, nothing's going to happen. Calm down. Don't freak out until you have a reason to freak out. And so that's how they ended the conversation. And Gerald got ready for bed, brushed his teeth, took a shower. And so he lays in bed, and not even 10 minutes later, he feels his phone buzz. And it's a text from his aunt, the one whose house he was just at. And so, like any normal person, he read it. And all it said was, don't worry, I won't tell your mom. And so a couple months go by, and she never told Gerald's mom. I don't really know what the moral of this story is. Don't smoke, I guess. And yeah, so that's going to wrap it up for me. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure to comment your thoughts and drop a like. Thank you.